I think we're talking California.
Cool. Yeah.
In California.
Yeah. So I had sent you guys that article, right, about
Yep.
how apparently California is like using their streets as collateral, right? So I was able to, I know that Steve wasn't satisfied with the source
Well, I just questioned it,
previously. I know
like
it
my
looked a
due
little
diligence.
sketchy,
That's
right?
all.
With that cross going
Yeah,
around.
right. The revolving cross. Yeah.
Yeah. But as you can see, this is from Forbes. Okay. So, and apparently this story originated from this thing called buyerbond.com, which I guess it's their like this economic uh, newspaper or paper or whatever. But anyway, so this is from Forbes, and it says, forget pension obligation bonds. Two cities are, no joke, leasing their seats to fund pensions. It says it sounds preposterous, and the headline of a recent article here at Forbes by Marilyn Cohen is certainly eye-catching. The lunacy of using city streets to collateralize new municipal bond deals, and these aren't just any municipal bond deals. Two cities in California are issuing bond deals or bonds with their own city streets as collateral to pay down their unfunded pension liabilities. So it says in West Covina, the city council voted to do so on July 7th. As reported at the San Gabriel Valley Tribune, the city, a suburb of Los Angeles with a population of 100,000, a median household income of $71,200, and nearly $200 million in pension liabilities, is using the proceeds of a $205 million in debt to pay off its own debts to CalPERS, which CalPERS is the pension group for California. Likewise, according to the East Bay Times, the city of Torrance, also in suburban Los Angeles, which Los Angeles has just been getting beat up, man. They have
Oh,
really been, from the obviously like the fires over there, and
oh
also
man.
from the pandemic, and just been
Mm.
shutting down and just everything. They've really gotten it. And people leaving because apparently everyone is leaving California, which really hurts. That's one of the main reasons why this is a big deal, is because they're losing all of these funds from taxes that they collect from wealthier people, and they still have pensions that they have to pay out. So it says also in suburban Los Angeles, population 150,000, median household income 80,900, pension debt $500 million, will issue $350 million in bonds.
I
Uh,
mean, this to your last point,
yeah.
Daisy. This is just the kind of move that could send them into like a financial death spiral, right? Because people now are like, so if they don't pay off these bonds correctly, my street is going to be owned by another by somebody else, and they'll be able to what make
Well,
me pay a
it
toll.
explains further down there on the page
Yeah.
that it's
Okay.
not the same as a traditional,
Oh, okay,
collateral.
okay.
Yeah. So that is obviously what the initial reaction would be. Like that was my initial reaction,
Yeah.
was that that would be like your streets would now be like sponsored by Capital
Right.
One or like something like that. But it does say now it turns out they're not turning their streets into toll roads, because that was also the thing, is that they were worried that if they
That's what I was
weren't able
concerned
to
about.
pay off these roads, that they would just end up putting, these companies or these banks, they would end up putting a toll in order to pay off these funds or
That's
these
not
loans,
unheard of. I
essentially.
was I was in Italy in the 70s, and the highways there were I believe they're owned by oil companies, and so you pay your toll to the oil company.
That's
So it's
crazy.
not unprecedented.
Yeah. Although I would not want that.
No, I'm just saying that's
yeah,
not the
yeah,
first
yeah.
time.
And says, or giving bond buyers the ability to foreclose or take control either now or in the future. So that is the good thing. And then it goes into talking about like the different types of lease revenue bonds, versus like government bonds versus revenue bonds. Like, so it's just a different way of accumulating those resources, essentially, without having to give up control of these streets. And also, what they mentioned down here is that the general obligation bonds require voter approval. So this is also another way for them to
Evade,
get around that.
get around it.
Oh,
What happens if the whole thing goes south? That's my, because I'm always like looking on the glasses half full, and that if it all fails and they don't have enough money to pay the pensions, and they can't pay this, they can't pay the money back. What happens? I mean, obviously they can't foreclose on the roads, but what happens?
Right. I mean, I don't know. This is something that they're trying out new. They're not, they haven't done this before, but now and California, they have, they supposedly they've been mismanaging their funds for a very long time. We had talked about this previously, the fact that, they're the 5th largest economy in the world, and they're having to use their streets as collateral. That's pretty significant, that there is some sort of disparity there. And when it comes to, federal funding, this really does highlight the fact that, states cannot create their own money. And that is when it comes to all of these different programs that we want to implement, how people say that maybe we should try them at the state level and then we can try them at a national level. The problem is that, and that's why, like, let's say Medicare for All, for instance, Bernie Sanders wasn't able to pass it in his own state of Vermont. Why? Because of the fact that they cannot, the burden that you would put for taxes on the state, on the citizens for the state specifically, is exorbitant versus, if you dole that out, throughout the whole nation, obviously it's an easier burden to carry,
that makes
tax wise,
Yeah.
And again, the fact that the federal government is who creates money through its spending. Right. And that was a big point of contention with the stimulus bills, right, between the Republicans and the Democrats, because Trump and the Republicans are saying we don't want to just bail out essentially these states, because really what they're using it for is to pay off these pensions, right, and not for essentially emergency relief, which is what the bills are supposed to be for.
And again, that translated into the whole COVID response, where I think a lot of the resistance on the part of Republicans can be chalked up to, well, these Democrats-run states just want the money to pay off their pensions because they've been mismanaging for so long, right? So it just trickles down to being a real problem in so many ways. And I really do worry that something like this could be the straw that broke the camel's back like that, and really send them in. Because if I was living there and I read an article like that and they were talking about, streets that I knew about in my area, I'd be leaving. I'd be like, okay, that's it. Things are going downhill fast,
Also famously, California passed this Proposition 13 in 1978 that resulted in a constitutional amendment to the California Constitution, which basically said that it was a property tax revolt, and basically said that property taxes cannot be more than 1% of the value of the property. So like if you have a $500,000 house, your taxes can't be more than $5,000 annually, right? So this also limited, especially in California's case, it limited their ability to tax. So they could do that. They could do the maximum, but for a lot of these municipalities, it's not enough to run things.
Yeah.
So
1%. That's pretty severe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you have, I don't know if it actually passed or if this was something that California was suggesting, that they wanted to pass this like tax on people leaving the state. Like even if you leave the state, you still have to pay. If you make over a certain amount, you still have to pay taxes in the state of California. And that was made a big deal because obviously Joe Rogan, he recently left. He's one of the people that flew from California, and he moved over to Texas because Texas doesn't have state taxes.
No income tax.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know
that kind of
what's
stuff.
happen with this.
That kind of stuff can just accelerate the.
And just think about the fact that California has lost a shit ton of revenue, from tourism. Obviously, the fact that the majority of their businesses, like they've actually had a much tighter lockdown. I have a friend of mine who she is in San Francisco, and she was telling me about how they're going back on lockdown. Like they've just been on constant lockdown for months now.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
obviously, like she is lucky enough that she can work from home, but not everyone is in that situation. And she's actually saying that she knows a lot of people because she works in kind of the tech sector, and she was saying that a lot of people have left California from the tech center. That's a lot of money that is leaving, and especially with like these fires that are going on, that they have to inject a lot more revenue, into
Right.
paying for these things. And obviously that's why they have prison labor.
Oh yeah. And
They
they
fighting
just
these
talk
fires.
about it. It's to me that's stuff like you think of like China doing, like having like prison slave labor. They just talk about, like, got Gavin Newsom just like, oh yeah, we're gonna have more prisoners taking care of this section of it. It's like, I can't
Oh, but you
believe
know
it.
what? But now at least the people, the prisoners, when they get out, they're
Yeah.
they're trying to pass this legislation that they'll at least be able to get a job as a firefighter afterwards, or they may be able to, because the whole thing was that I guess they were fighting to be EMTs, like to,
Yeah.
to get that certification, and they were barred from getting that certification, even after they'd served their time. And with these people that are fighting these fires, obviously the whole thing of that they're getting paid like $2, $3,
Oh
which
yeah.
is better than I guess 10 cents
Yeah.
compared to
Well,
other
Hey,
I
well,
mean,
places.
if we can get
yeah,
the
but with the inflated, yeah, I mean, you've heard about the inflated prices they pay, they charge them for making phone calls and stuff like that. You're literally talking about people risking their lives in these infernos and then coming back, and they can make a 10-minute call to their mother because they just did that. I mean, that's
right.
what's going on, and then never mind the stuff about Kamala Harris having kept them in prison longer than they really should have been in order to continue to fight fires, and all that stuff, or people for cannabis related offenses and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Oh my
Yeah.
lord.
So California is in a heap of trouble, and it looks like it's only going to get worse. We already know that the economy it is just getting
That
worse for people.
that big that big earthquake's going to happen. It's going to float out in the sea, and it'll have more coast, and it'll be a more of a tourist destination, and they'll come back.
It'll be its own island, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.